chaos begets chaos. And they know that. Our controllers, as I've dubbed them, know that. So chaos externally begets chaos internally. They need us in a perpetual state of chaos. Why? Because this is part of the sea of stimulation, aggravation, information. And part of this sea, the sea of chaos we were born into, what does it do? It perpetuates the cycles of thought, which gets us thinking we're somebody doing something, and all the attachments that go with it. It gets us thinking that things are happening to us. It gets us thinking we're in control, which causes all of our suffering and keeps us trapped in the cycle of suffering and the illusion. And it gets us thinking we know. So they can tell us things, and then we attach to them and think we know and become trapped. This is how we become trapped. So regarding the current situation, we have to take the highest perspective, which is what? Not attaching the center of the circle. What does the Tao say? Stand in the center of the circle and allow all things to take their course. Don't attach yourself to anything, no matter what it's saying, no matter what side it's on or anything. Always observe, because as soon as you attach yourself to one thing or another, you're trapped. They got you. They're going to be able to manipulate you because they're manipulating the perspective you have attached to. This makes us easier to control. This is how they control humans. By getting us attached in the sea of stimulation, aggravation, and information. And perpetuating and creating and inflating the ego, our somebodyness. So as soon as we think we know something, we say, oh, this is actually what happened, we're trapped, because most likely the powers that be, the controllers of the illusion, are able to manipulate every side, both sides of the conflict, both sides of the equation, all sides of the equation, to make it look like there's one and another instead of just one. Always be the observer. This allows us to see from higher perspectives. And what's the real reason for the chaos, the stimulation, the aggravation, the information? It perpetuates our cycles of thought, which gets us thinking we're somebody doing something, thinking we're in control, thinking we know, which takes us away from doing what? The two greatest devotions to God, to our cosmic beloved. Presence and purification. The chaos is pulling us away from presence, right? It's causing separation as opposed to wholeness, which is the present moment. Surrender, not thinking, not thinking, right? Not judging, not knowing. This is the center of the circle. This is the highest devotion to God. And to do this highest devotion to God, which is surrender, which is saying, I trust you 100%, God, I give it all to you. You become a vessel, your higher self, for the divine. And they need to really put some extra voltage in these strings they're trying to pull to create chaos and distraction and division. Because they see that humanity is awakening and we are starting to ascend in a sense, and they really got to try harder and harder to keep to shock us back down into the illusion. But eventually, it don't work no more, and we realize, no matter what, we have to stand in the center of the circle and allow all things to take their course. And not attach to anything. So important. This allows us to see from the highest perspective. Remember, there's only really one thing to do, which is to do nothing, but is to be present. Is to stop thinking. And purification. Purification is such a big part of it because it is such a powerful tool. The anti-purification, which is toxifying us in a sense, right? Filling us with toxins from the air, the water, the food, programming us to specifically create a self-limiting population to suppress ourselves physically, which also ends up suppressing us consciously. The fats and the proteins, aggravating the mind is through as many channels as possible to keep us out of the present moment, which is going to free us completely from the illusion. They need to keep us trapped here to feed off of us energetically. And when we think we know, this keeps us in lower limiting perspectives, which makes us lose our common sense. Because if you attach to something, you have no true common sense. If you're attached to an idea, or a yes or no, it's this way or that way. Because then you could only see from that perspective, and you're limited. It's a limited lower perspective. So to regain true common sense, center the circle, surrender, purify the body. Because these foods are suppressing and aggravating us on purpose, and suppressing us physically, and causing this types of stress and anxiety, depression, which makes our heart and it's all chemistry and conditioning. There's nothing to do. Behind all of this mumbo jumbo, right? There's nothing to do but observe. It always comes back to that. And then also purifying the body, because that's it's a devotion to God, because these bodies are vessels of God. And when we focus on presence, we're dissolving the ego and our somebodyness and our attachments to all these ideas and these things that keep us trapped in the illusion. Because once we are attached to a thought or an idea one way or another, you can only see from that perspective. I keep repeating that, but it's so important. This is how we gain a higher or deeper understanding. But I don't really understand some of these things, like no control. There is no control. Control only exists in the thinking mind. But no, I'm in control. I have to think. Well, it's why you're always going to be caught in the illusion and the cycles of suffering. Because as long as you're thinking, you think you're in control. And all suffering assumes control. So this is why the chaos is so important for them. Because they have to keep perpetuating the cycles of thought. So we're trapped in our somebodyness. We're trapped in thinking we're in control and thinking we know. And thus trapped in the illusion, their illusion of separation. When we come back to presence, we come back to oneness, surrender. But how do we do this in this world of chaos? We have to remove the aggravations. Removing the aggravators is so important. Facilitating a state of peace in everything we do. This raises our vibration through presence and purification and all these things. This allows us to break free. Facilitating a state of peace, so important. Removing the aggravators so we can identify things that are aggravating us, aggravating your cycles of thought. Like what? Like screens, entertainment, news. I haven't watched the news for almost a year. But I still catch parts of it just here and there anyway, right? And even that is, I can feel it, you know what I mean? It's just like so much. The what they're doing with it, and the programming and manipulating. So I leave it alone, because that's just going to aggravate your mind. And if you're trying to surrender and give it all up, you got to let go of the aggravators, which will come when we practice presence and purification, because presence and purification corrects all imbalances. It brings us back into balance, no matter what the issue is. So wherever our issues are, wherever our hang-ups are, our attachments, on our journey of awakening, presence and purification always brings us back into balance. The deeper we go into things like purification, we're doing things like removing the obstructions to our true physical bodies, our true health, which are things like processed food, cooked food, proteins and fats. These things suppress consciousness, which I have directly experienced, because I've gone back and forth between these things and seen such a stark difference in my connection with the divine. by removing things like fats. I've removed protein a long time ago. Now when I remove fats completely and just focus on raw fruits and vegetables, which I've gone back and forth between doing it and not doing it, my consciousness goes through the roof when I remove these things and I'm on a much higher diet. Just raw fruits and vegetables with no overt fats. And when I add the fats back in, there goes most of it. There goes my constant connection, my constant oneness. So it shows me how important purification is and why I talk about it so much. And things like fats and look at fats in everything. Salt is stimulating and it dehydrates. Some people think you need salt. I don't do salt. It's dehydrating for me, and it makes me want more. It's addicting. It's like a drug. It makes you want more. Fats are the same thing, because we're so used to these fatty, these types of tastes in these foods, that your body is just still kind of attached to it. So I remove these things, and then we have a higher connection and a higher vibration, because the foods you're eating are higher vibration. They're the highest energy. This is why purification is so important in going onto higher levels. Because when we do this, it allows us to be present more, and facilitate a state of peace more, and calm the mind more, and allows us to empty and reconstitute the mind, which creates space to gain a deeper understanding of it all, which allows us to practice presence more and surrender, and brings us to things like purification. This is how we escape the illusion. So remember, amidst the chaos, always come back to presence and purification. This is a reminder for myself and for you, beautiful friends, because I know you need it. Because that's the name of the game. Why do I always say the same things in all my videos? Because that's the name of the game. That's the only game in town. And you and me, my friends, are sharing it together. Thank you for sharing this journey with me, the journey of awakening, of breaking free, of going back to our cosmic beloved, as being a vessel, a true vessel for God, by giving it all up, surrendering, stop thinking and end all of your problems. I am God's eternal love pouring forth. Namaste.